Although the Battle of Britain began with operations over the English Channel, the main attack by the Luftwaffe against RAF defenses was planned in August 1940. Intelligence reports gave the Luftwaffe the impression that the RAF was almost defeated, and a campaign against fighter command bases would attract British fighters for the Luftwaffe to shoot down and finally gain air superiority over the RAF. Operation Eagle Attack was planned on August 6th, and Eagle Day was to be the first day of the operation. The date of the first assault was postponed several times because of bad weather. Eventually, the Luftwaffe carried out a series of raids against airfields and radar stations in Kent on August 12th, and the start of the operation was set for the next day. The weather was still poor on the morning of August 13th, and most of the planned morning raids were cancelled. Some units of the 2nd Air Fleet began their attacks aimed at airfields and ports in southern Britain. The cancellation of the morning raids had not reached the 3rd Air Fleet headquarters at all. The 54th Bomber Wing took off to strike at Oldham and Farnborough. The 2nd Bomber Wing took off for Eastchurch, while the 54th Bomber Wing was escorted by 233 fighters. The fighters for the 2nd Bomber Wing received the order for the cancellation of the raid and returned to base, but the bombers continued onward without fighter escort. The 2nd Bomber Wing approached Eastchurch Airfield from the east. Their return course took them across the territory of Fighter Command's 11th Group, which could have been disastrous without fighter escort. But the Royal Observer Corps misjudged the direction of the raid, and the RAF failed to prevent the target being attacked. Eventually, the bombers were intercepted and 5 of them were shot down, while another 6 were badly damaged. In return, accurate fire from the German gunners shot down 2 Hurricanes. The 54th Bomber Wing was intercepted by fighters from Northolt, Tangmere, and Middle Wallop. 4 Ju-88s and 1 Bf-109 were shot down. The Germans claimed 20 RAF fighters. In reality, they only shot down 1 and damaged 6, of which 2 were written off. The next attack of the 54th Bomber Wing was against Croydon and Gosport. The attack against Croydon was cancelled, but the fighters that were supposed to provide escort didn't receive the order to return to base and arrived over the target without their bombers. The official go-ahead was given at 1400 hours. 80 Ju-88s escorted by 30 fighters took off to bomb Boscombe Down and Worthy Down. Andover was to be bombed by 52 Stukas of the 1st Dive Bomber Wing, and the 2nd Dive Bomber Wing was to strike at Warmwell and Yaleville. The 53rd Fighter Wing flew ahead of the bombers to tempt the RAF into battle. The fighters failed to divert any RAF squadrons. Instead, the RAF was alerted a critical 5 minutes earlier. When the bombers arrived over the coast, they were greeted by 77 RAF fighters. Eventually, 3 of the targets were obscured by clouds, and the bombers raided Southampton and Portland instead. Only the airfield at Andover was hit, which was used for bomber operations. Meanwhile, the 77th Dive Bomber Wing took up the mission to raid Warmwell, which was missed by the previous wave of Stukas. This raid didn't fare any better as the pilots failed to find the target and dropped their bombs at random. Further missions in southeast England included raids against Heathrow Airport, Southend, Detling, and the Short Brothers factory at Rochester. The most significant damage was done to the Short Brothers factory producing the Stirling heavy bomber and to the Detling station where the operations block was hit. The station's casualties amounted to 24 killed and 42 wounded, and the 53rd Squadron lost a number of Blenheims on the ground. However, Detling was not a fighter command station, and the attack didn't affect the 11th Group in any way. RAF Bomber Command also took part in the day's fighting. The 82nd Squadron sent 12 Blenheims to bomb the airfields of the 30th Bomber Wing in Denmark. One pilot returned to base complaining of fuel problems and was later court-martialed. That aircraft was the only one to return, The rest fell to anti-aircraft fire and fighters. As darkness fell at the close of Eagle Day, a squadron of the 100th Bombing Group raided the Spitfire factory in Birmingham. Despite the group being a specialist night strike unit, only 4 of the crews found their targets. The damage inflicted to the factory didn't disrupt fighter production. Another squadron of 15 bombers took off from bases in Brittany to strike at the Short Brothers factory in Belfast, Northern Ireland, and destroyed 5 Sterling aircraft. More night raids followed against various targets, but none of them inflicted serious damage. Eagle Day and the following missions of Operation Eagle Attack failed to destroy Fighter Command. The main reason for the failure of the operation was faulty intelligence. In July 1940, intelligence reports asserted that the British aircraft industry could produce 180 to 330 fighters per month. The true figure was 496. The importance of radar stations in the British operational system was underestimated. To the contrary, the High Command of the Luftwaffe believed that radar stations would benefit the German effort by sending RAF forces into large-scale battles for the German pilots to decimate. The Luftwaffe also had poor intelligence on the type of RAF airfields. It repeatedly misidentified airfields as fighter command bases, which turned out to belong to Coastal Command or Bomber Command. Most of the chosen targets on Eagle Day would not have impaired Fighter Command in the slightest if they were completely destroyed. Both sides overestimated losses throughout the Battle of Britain, and on Eagle Day the RAF claimed 78 aircraft shot down, whereas the actual German losses amounted to 48 aircraft destroyed and 39 damaged. Conversely, the Luftwaffe claimed to have destroyed 70 fighters in the air and another 84 on the ground. Actual RAF losses in the air amounted to 13 fighters and 47 aircraft of various types on the ground. The failure of Eagle Day did not deter the Luftwaffe from continuing its campaign. The assault against RAF airfields continued throughout August and into September 1940. The battles involved large numbers of aircraft and heavy losses on both sides. The Luftwaffe failed to develop any focused strategy for defeating RAF Fighter Command. At first, it attempted to destroy RAF bases and then switched to a strategic bombing by day and night. It tried to achieve the destruction of several British industries at the same time, switching from bombing aircraft factories to attacking supporting industries. An attempt was even made against unrelated targets, such as destroying the morale of the British population. Having failed to defeat the RAF, the Luftwaffe adopted a different and clearer strategy of strategic bombing, known as the Blitz.